The air reeked of swamp rot and concrete dust as I stood at the edge of what used to be my backyard, watching Meredith Klein from the HOA scream at a city inspector while her pristine, zero-lot line McMansion sank another inch into the muck. Flash flood warnings blared from parked squad cars. Frogs croaked from flooded front lawns. Somewhere across the waterlogged Hell's Cape, a rusted mailbox floated by like a funeral barge. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how we got here. I never thought that the skinny little creek winding through my backyard would turn into a declaration of war. But that's exactly what happened. For years, that trickle of water was my solace, my reward. After long days welding pipes and crawling under crawl spaces, I would sit in an old folding chair beside the creek, beer in hand, fishing pole resting on my knee. I never caught much, maybe the occasional curious bluegill. But the peace was worth it. Dragonflies zipped over the tall reeds. The air smelled like wet grass. At night, the only sound was the quiet burble of the water weaving between rocks. It was the kind of peace you don't mess with. Then came the HOA. Technically, the Homeowners Association had existed on the other side of the subdivision for years. Identical beige houses, matching mailboxes, suspiciously synchronized porch pumpkins in October. Over here on the creek side, we were the old guard, the remnants of when this neighborhood was just dirt roads and fields. The boundary lines were redrawn, neighborhoods were annexed, and one day the HOA slithered its way into our lives like a corporate oil spill. I got my first taste of their nonsense when Meredith showed up on my porch one muggy Saturday morning, clipboard clutched like a weapon. She wore pastel workout clothes and enough perfume to knock out a horse. Her smile was tighter than a bank vault. She introduced herself as the community standards chair. I introduced myself as busy. It didn't stop her. She had concerns about my property. More specifically, about my creek. According to her, it was an unauthorized water feature that posed a safety hazard to neighborhood children and local wildlife. I looked at her like she'd accused my dog of tax fraud. The creek was natural, had been there long before any of us and our mortgages and zero-turn mowers. It was a protected waterway according to my deed and county records. Meredith didn't care. Meredith had rules. Rules about fencing water features. Rules about standing water. Rules about aesthetics. Rules, rules, rules. I calmly quoted the county code, even showed her my land survey, but she scribbled furiously on her clipboard and huffed away in a cloud of Chanel and indignation. 2 days later, I got my first violation notice, taped to my door with blue painter's tape. Unauthorized landscape element. Unsafe water hazard. Attracting non-native species, apparently frogs were now foreigners. I ignored it. A week later came a second notice, threatening fines of $100 per day unless I submitted a compliance plan. So I wrote back, quoted the law, attached the survey. They scheduled a mandatory inspection. 3 strangers wandered around my yard with tape measures and smartphones. Meredith supervised from the edge of my lawn, arms crossed, watching like a warden at a prison yard. They took photos like I was hiding nuclear material. At the next HOA meeting, which I hadn't planned to attend until that nonsense, Meredith stood up in front of a mostly bored crowd and declared my creek an imminent safety hazard. She cited wildlife, mosquito breeding, insurance risks, erosion. When I stood to object, she handed me a stack of papers demanding I either fill in the creek, fence it, or pay for weekly HOA inspections at my own cost. I told her politely exactly where she could file those papers. After that, it got worse. Anonymous complaints appeared about my overgrown landscape. My mailbox was mysteriously knocked over. Someone dumped rocks into the creek, causing it to pool. I caught Meredith one day in her SUV across the street, taking pictures of my yard like some sort of suburban detective. Still, I refused to give in. I kept my creek clean and flowing. It was mine, but they escalated. One morning, I heard heavy machinery. I rushed outside to see a cement truck backing into the side alley. A man in a neon vest aimed the chute directly at the top bend of my creek. "Hey!" I shouted. "What do you think you're doing?" "Just following orders," the man called back. "Drainage mitigation. HOA approved." The chute dropped and thick gray concrete spilled into the creek. I ran, slipped in the mud, went down hard. By the time I got up, the creek was a grave. Frogs scrambled. Some didn't make it. My sanctuary dead. Meredith watched from the sidewalk, arms folded, satisfied. Let her enjoy her little win. She had no idea what she'd unleashed. When the rains came, they came heavy. The creek would have handled it. It always had. But now concrete sent the water scattering. It backed up into yards, into basements. Lawns flooded. Streets turned to rivers. Still, the HOA blamed the homeowners. Improper grading. Clogged drains. Not once did they mention destroying the creek. I said nothing. Not publicly. I took photos. I flew my old drone. I mapped the water's path or lack of one. I documented every flooded yard, every submerged mailbox. The neighbors turned on each other. Accusations flew. The HOA doubled down. Meredith got more aggressive. She didn't know I had the real proof. Old land records. A 1978 letter from the county recognizing the creek as a protected drainage route. Maps. Photos. Drone footage. County codes. I called the county, the city, the environmental authority. I didn't mention the HOA. I let the facts speak. Then I anonymously leaked everything to local news. Photos, documents, complaints. Within days, inspectors showed up. The city began investigating. The news aired a segment. The HOA panicked. Meredith panicked. More rain came. More flooding. Cracks appeared in homes. Lawns slid into streets. Insurance companies refused to pay claims, citing negligence. The city slapped red tags on homes. Condemned. Unsafe. Meredith's home included. People moved out. The HOA dissolved in disgrace. Bankruptcy declared. Meredith left in a rusted pickup towing a borrowed RV. The county restored the creek. Volunteers, even former rivals, helped me uncover the old waterway. Native plants returned. The frogs came back. Dragonflies hovered again. One morning, I carved a wooden sign and planted it beside the flowing creek. Nature always wins. And it had. In the end, the land had remembered. And it had taken everything back. The air reeked of swamp rot and concrete dust as I stood at the edge of what used to be my backyard, watching Meredith Klein from the HOA scream at a city inspector while her pristine, zero-lot line McMansion sank another inch into the muck. Flash flood warnings blared from parked squad cars. Frogs croaked from flooded front lawns. Somewhere across the waterlogged Hell's Cape, a rusted mailbox floated by like a funeral barge. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how we got here. I never thought that the skinny little creek winding through my backyard would turn into a declaration of war. But that's exactly what happened. For years, that trickle of water was my solace, my reward. After long days welding